I think fiction and nonfiction are very different for a writer because they're really using different parts of your brain. And I don't know about other people, but I feel my brain physically when I'm working. So, like, when I'm trying to think, when I'm trying to analyze a situation that I want to write about in a analytical nonfiction way, then it's really right up here in the frontal lobes, and I'm very aware of that. But the key for me for writing fiction is to kind of switch off that front part of the brain and move more into the back part of the brain as I visualize it, and where you're just more in free fall, and it's a lot riskier because you have to trust that you have something interior that other people want to share in. In some ways, though, what's similar about them is about fiction, nonfiction, essays versus a novel or a short story is that you really need to have a clear sense of what it is you want to accomplish with the piece that you're writing, and start with a pretty clearly defined premise and move from there. And several years ago, the New York Times asked me to write a piece on data that I found really startling, which was that women are the biggest consumers of fiction about the say the violation, the dismemberment, the cruel treatment of women in the body. And I really couldn't believe it. They wanted me to explain why this was, and I really had to go in and research that data before I could even get my mind around it, because it just seems so contrary to how I feel. But once I'd mastered the data, then I began to be able to imagine reasons and started talking to readers and asking them, and came up with at least what for me was a believable premise on why women would want to read this kind of work. And so that became the essay for the New York Times. I don't like to write that kind of fiction. I don't like to read that kind of fiction. I like women to feel more, less threatened in their bodies, more able to be whole and live a whole life in the world. And so I'm writing novels that you could say are novels of empowerment as opposed to novels of victimization. But I can see why experiencing this emotionally might make you feel like you had undergone the trauma, so you never needed to feel that you were at risk on the streets. I'm not sure. But anyway, it's a very different kind of process.
Thank you for listening. Please review our other available content for help writing, publishing, and marketing your book. If you have any questions about the Author Learning Center, please contact us by email at authorsupport@authorlearningcenter.com.